Welcome back to Libertas. This is Tonino Abana with our special guest, Pompee Vina, who was the social media director of the Duterte campaign. Before the break, I was asking Pompee, there were two incidences during the period of the campaign where Duterte mentioned he was affected by statements that he made. One was when he cursed the Pope, and the other one was when he issued that statement on the rape of that Australian. So how did your group react to that, those two incidences?
Okay. Well, on the official end, coming from our communications group, basically, the instructions were to bring the conversation back again to the strengths, which is crime, corruption, drugs. Every time we stray, let's just go back to where we are strong: crime, corruption, and drugs. And that's what we did. But on the ground, really, I mean, on what was happening on Facebook was actually the supporters were very emotional in supporting Duterte through those things. But we felt, and a lot of people in the campaign felt, that that was a no-win situation for us. So bring it back to the issue of crime, corruption, and drugs. Now, on the rape issue, again, the supporters were, again, very emotional about it. I think some probably got a little carried away, but again, we tried to tell them, go back to crime, corruption, and drugs. That's always go back to the message where you're strong. You have a strong leader, no fear, no corruption, and he stands on the issues of crime, corruption, and drugs.
So you just didn't touch on the topic, you just let it blow over.
Yeah, you cannot control it, but in a way it worked out still to our advantage, because when the issue of the Pope came up, really, to supporters, it showed that the anger there of Duterte when he cursed the Pope really was not at the Pope. It was at the fact that the government did not really care about how the people suffered. You know, so in that sense, his message of malasakit got projected also, because he was talking about, he got mad because he saw pregnant women walking. He saw a woman, you know, who had to go to the bathroom on the streets. He had people walking for hours under the sun, and that's what angered him. But in a sense, that also strengthened him, because it shows that he cared about these ordinary people. And on the issue of the rape, well, you know, it was something that you wish didn't happen, but on another end, really, it highlighted the cultural difference between what we call the elites, you know, up there. I mean, almost hypocritical in my opinion, as if they were perfect, right? And somebody like Duterte, who communicated in the manner that the masa did. So it was a cultural signal to the vast majority of the voters, the D and E class, that, hey, this guy is like us, and these guys who are putting him down are, what, mata pobre, or looking down at us as if they're the only ones who know what's right or wrong in this world.
Yeah, so that was good that you were able to highlight the difference between the Duterte campaign, or the Duterte as a person, and the other candidates. I think he stood out, and that's why he had a lot of followers on social media.
Yes.
But the other campaign groups also had their own social media groups. Correct. And immense resources.
Correct.
Especially, you know, the Liberal Party.
Correct.
Did you feel that they were doing countermeasures? Did you feel that they were spending on something to try to win over your social media followers?
Definitely. I mean, they did pour money into it. Like, for example, they were trying, on social media, they were trying to portray Duterte as somebody who's not decente.
Right.
I mean, like, Mar Rojas is the decente, and the Duterte was not decente. But the problem with that message is it's basically telling the vast majority of supporters, of voters, that they are not decente.
Right.
Because Duterte talked and walked and felt the same, expressed the same feelings that these people had. So it only served to highlight the disconnect that the administration candidate had with the rest of the voters. I mean, dissented to whom? To them, right? But you can broadcast that to the whole world, but if if the voters don't agree with you that that is what dissented, then it won't do you any good. It will do you harm, actually.
One of the interesting things that I picked up during the campaign was the Duterte followers on social media were so vicious
Yeah.
that if someone attacked him, they would just go there like piranhas and try to destroy. I mean, there were complaints, you know.
Yes, yes.
How do you explain that phenomenon?
Well, it's a mathematical phenomenon, Tonino, because if you have 1 million Duterte supporters attacking the opponents, right, versus 1,000 Rojas supporters attacking Duterte supporters, then you would think that there's this whole horde attacking you. It just happened to be many more numbers with a higher intensity of support.
Right, right.
So, you know, it's like...
But you didn't give them the order, attack.
No. It's just like the whatever, right? I mean, the villages being attacked by the Mongols, I mean, would claim that there was this horde. Of course, there's a horde because they were outnumbered, you know, many times over. So that's how it was to me.
Okay, I have a texter here. Good evening po, sir. Tanong po namin, palagay niyo po ba na kaya bang linisin ni President Duterte ang Pilipinas sa loob ng 6 na buwan?
Yes, I think so. I think he has already started.
Yes.
Diba? I mean, the moves that you have seen so far, and not only na linisin, I think that aside from linisin, we also have to direct it more sa mga tao that need it more, which is the poor and the underprivileged in our country.
Yeah, we had our guest last week was actually the executive director of Congress, and I asked him because last week was the inaugural day of the president, and I asked him what happened in Congress, and he said 2 bills were filed. One was to reimpose the death penalty, and the other one was to lower the criminal liability of minors.
Yes.
And another resolution was filed, which was actually constitutional convention.
Yes.
Someone filed the resolution. So it seems like the legislative agenda is already there from day one.
Correct. The joint, I think I don't know, I'm not a congressman, Tonino, but the joint bill number 1 was for Congress to call a constitutional convention. Then the first House bill, number 1, is reimposition of the death penalty.
Will you be involved in the constitutional change, the campaign for constitutional change? I mean, social media will play another big role. If you have 16 million followers, then definitely you're a major influencer of this.
Well, I'm definitely a supporter of federalism, and to get federalism rolling, we would have to have constitutional change.
Okay, we have another texter from Osamis. What about Osamis? What happened to this city? The number 1 in drugs capital of Misamis. Is that true? Osamis is number 1 in drugs in Misamis? You're from Mindanao?
I don't know if I don't know if Osamis is the number 1. It's rumored to be one of the hotbeds,
oh, okay.
But I think Mayor Duterte has already made a statement that there are several mayors. So we just have to wait. I think that's coming in a few days. We'll know for sure whether...
It was very, very bold of the president to name those 5 generals that are
Yes.
allegedly implicated. I mean, I was really amazed, and I admire him for doing that. I'm sure he has the evidence to back that, and it's actually a first in history, right?
Yes. And it was bolder, you know, what's even bolder to Nino was, believe it or not, the first rally, or at that time it was a listening tour stop for Duterte that I ever attended, was in Osamis. And I heard, you know, he was like a voice in the wilderness then. And I heard him railing about drugs and putting drug dealers in jail in this place that's rumored to be. But to be fair, you know, it's only a rumor. I don't know really. We'll have, the police will have to be the one. The PNP will have to be the one.
Good PM po, sana po drug test din yung mga lahat ng employee, pati sa private company, para ma-sustain ang anti-drug campaign ng government. Thanks. So,
Yeah.
what will happen to GMA? I hope President Duterte will release her, Rudy, from Cebu.
Well, I think President Duterte has already said that he would respect whatever the rulings of the court is on that matter. It's a matter for the courts
Right.
to decide.
Um, yeah, so the messaging on anti-drugs, the messaging on, but what about the human rights aspect of the campaign? I'm sure a lot of a lot of the people who didn't go for Duterte was because of his human rights records.
Who didn't go, you mean?
Yeah, who didn't go
Yes.
with Duterte.
Yes. Well, you and I go back a long way in human rights, right, Tonino?
Right.
And there's a lot of people in that campaign that if you know their history, you will never think that they'd be for Duterte. One of them, for example, is the Secretary of the Cabinet now,
Right.
Mayor June Evasco, was
Right.
actually detained during the time of Marcos. The Sports Commissioner now, um, Peter Lavinia, who was a spokesman during the campaign, all these people were actually detained during martial law. So it's not like they suddenly got drunk and now they're supporting somebody who is going to violate human rights. It's just that these people, and myself included, believe that he's not going to violate human rights. What he will do though is he will use the full force of the law to the maximum extent possible to give us peace and order, to enforce the law actually.
This is an interesting question. It's more of a personal question. What positions will Pompee and Tony Lavinia have in the Duterte administration?
You'll have to ask Tony if he has a position, but so far I have decided to be in the private sector as of now. I have had offers, but I am still a private citizen as of now.
Okay,
There's 6 years, a long time to go.
We have a
Long way
texter.
to go.
Good PM, pwede po bang bigyan naman ni President Duterte ng atensyon ang kidnapping dito sa Tawi-Tawi? Apektado po kami talaga.
That's the good thing about social media, Tonino. It's really a two-way thing.
This is also social media.
Yes, exactly. On my Facebook page, for example, I get all those kinds of messages all the time. I mean, even down to the last barangay, down to the last sitio, they'll tell you that this policeman is abusive of his wife, or this teacher hasn't been promoted, or this barangay captain does this to teachers. So I hope that the Duterte administration would really harness the power of social media and realize that it's not just an election tool, but it's really a tool for governance.
This is another one that will affect social media. Good evening. What is freedom of what is freedom information that's signed by the president tonight? He says it was signed last.
I guess he signed it already. Today's Friday.
Yeah. No. Today's Thursday.
Yeah, I think he's about to sign it today or maybe tomorrow.
And what is the limitation of the bill? And what does freedom of information give to the public?
We're going to have to read the FOI orders. I don't think it's a bill. I think it's a executive order probably, because it only covers the executive branch. That's the one that the president can decide on the spot. So I'm sure they're going to have published it, and you can read it. But in essence, I think it means that anything in a reasonable way should be granted in a reasonable amount of time. Now, the Supreme Court, the Congress, that is beyond the president's powers. That would have to be the law. But I think it puts moral pressure on them to do that if the most powerful man in the country, our leader, is willing to give it voluntarily on the 7th day of his presidency.
Okay, we'll be going for a break, but before we go for a break, I'd like to ask this question and you can answer after. Good evening, isa po kong ina. Ang sagot kung bakit si Tatay Digong ang nanalo kasi nagsawa na kami sa kasinungalingan ni Aquino et al. You can respond to that after the break. Please don't go away. Thank you.